Well, you know, the first thing I would have is, you know, if I could only have one lure, it would be a jerk bait on a swim bait hook. So this happens to be, and I use this a lot. This is a 1/8 ounce 3/0 jerk bait hook, and these are really easy. They've got a spring, so pretty much, and I can show this because it's quick enough to do. There's, you know, you've got a spring, you've got a little bit of weight. I often use 1/16 of an ounce on the flat. That would be the most common one, and you just screw the front on, and then they all have a slot on the bottom. It's really important to hit that slot, come out like dead center of the top, and you want it to lay nice and flat like that. You don't want to have it bend in it or anything. Now, this happens to be a Zoom jerk shad. I often use, and pretty much most of what I use are the gulps. The problem with the gulps is that in some areas, the pinfish and the pufferfish, there's too many of them, and they'll destroy the gulp in that situation. So I'll use something like a Zoom, or Salt Strong makes good lures like this. Many companies make them, and so this would probably be number one. And what I like about this, it catches everything. I have caught tarpon on this particular Zoom, but snook, redfish, trout, all of them hit this. You can make it weedless. If you push it up, you bury that hook into the soft plastic, it just became weedless. You can skip this under mangroves because it will skip. So it's just got so many things going for it. Everything eats it. If I could only have one lure, that's it. That's the one. Okay, that said, another lure that gets not quite as much use, but pretty darn close, is pretty much any kind of a spook lure in this range of roughly 4 inches. This happens to be a Rebel jumping minnow. The most popular spook down here is the Super Spook Junior, the Heddon lure. I think it's about 3.5 inches. It's a little bit smaller. I happen to prefer the Rebel because it's a little bit bigger. It happens to plow through a chop a little better, hold its motion, and pretty much in both cases, in this case, what you're doing is working it with twitches where you get that darting action. This is a little bit similar, where you're kind of, they call it a walk the dog motion, where you want to have that thing on the surface zigzagging back and forth. I've actually caught a tarpon on this, although it's not a typical tarpon lure, but snook, redfish, trout, they'll all hit this. It's a spectacular lure. Between these two, wow, I got to say, this might be 90% of the lures I'm going to throw down here are going to be spook or this. If you only have these two, you're really good to go. That said, sometimes you're going to be in situations where the water's a little bit deeper and you don't want to be using top water. Maybe it's the middle of the day and you're fishing deeper, and like deeper down here, I'm talking about 3 feet or 4 feet of water. That's deep, because a lot of the fishing is done in less than 2 feet of water, especially on the flats with the redfish, with the jerk shads. 3 to 4 feet I actually consider to be fairly deep. This is, and it can be any lead head with a soft plastic. This is a Tsunami. I think this is a Z-Man lead head. And you could either have this, or you could have a small bucktail. I often use the small bucktails and then tip that with either a gulp or some kind of a soft plastic. So that's really it. If you've got these three down here in Southwest Florida, I don't know what else you need. If somebody said this is all I could have, well, that's fine with me. Like I said, 90% of the time I'm between these two, and then the other 10%, I'm throwing a jig with a soft plastic or a bucktail with soft plastic on it.